Chapter 13, A King's Attack. Alright, here we go. Let's see what kind of climax we're going towards. The wastes were strange. In the domes, it didn't matter that the planet was locked in perpetual day or night. The biofield was able to simulate a day and night cycle well enough that the outside didn't matter. But when I woke up, I was greeted by the same reddish hue of evening I'd gone to sleep to. I was thrown off. But when I woke up, rather, I think. Reading comprehension. I can do it. When I checked my system clock, it was 6 o'clock, though I didn't feel it. I'd slept for about 5 hours. And Magnus was already up, which surprised me. Yes, what a surprise. Is he still in the building? Then again, I guess he didn't sleep much. I reached for the wrinkled pillow where he'd been earlier to find it was cool to the touch. So he'd been up for at least a little while. With a soft groan, I stretched and wriggled off the bed. It was comfortable, and I'd love to lie there longer, but I felt I should get up. You'll probably have another chance in a future Rude Girl. I stretched again, reaching for the clothes I'd stripped out of right before going to sleep. I suppose the good news was that I was not, in fact, incarcerated, and there were no agents looming over me ready to take me into custody. Not that I ever thought I'd wake up and have to be grateful for that. But that meant Endgame hadn't found us yet, though I expected Magnus would wake me up before that happened, assuming he was still keeping an eye on their movements, but even he had to sleep. I wonder where he went, though. On my way to the kitchen, I paused to check the bathroom, but it was empty. I didn't see him in the main living area either. There were no signs of him anywhere, and the house wasn't that large. Hesitant as I was to snoop through a stranger's home, I wandered through the small habitat to check for him. Magnus? I called out awkwardly, listening for any signs of movement, but there were none. And no response. This wasn't the only building on the little plot of land. It was possible he had gone exploring, or that his friend had returned. The only thing holding me back from messaging him was that I didn't know it was safe. Even with Magnus's ability, wasn't it possible they could monitor communications? Or track them somehow? I didn't know enough about it, or about Endgame's full capabilities when it came to things like monitoring the nanosystem. Magnus hadn't said I couldn't send messages, but there also hadn't been much reason to say it. Without knowing how risky it was, I hesitated. Well, for now, I just look around for him. It wasn't a big area anyway. Surely he was around somewhere. Surely. This music and background. I half expected to find him lounging in that pool or something else ridiculous. Could you imagine? He's just on like a flamingo floaty having a pina colada, like, hello! But as I opened the door to a burst of dry wind, I didn't immediately see him. There were other buildings nearby, though. The greenhouse, and another one. I stepped out, holding a hand up as I looked towards the sun, hanging low above the flat-topped rock formations in the distance. Mesas? Buttes? I wasn't sure what they were called. The desolate landscape cast in long shadows lived up to its name. Beautiful, vast, and somehow lonely. Magnus? It felt like my call was swallowed up by the wind and empty space around me. And for the first time I realized how small and isolated I was in this place. There was an odd excitement pulling at me as I crossed the reddish soil to the greenhouse. The sky that arched overhead felt huge, endless, and I was so tiny and exposed beneath it. It was amazing what a difference it was to stand there under the real sky without the faint traces of the biofield structure marking it. Wind clawed at my hair, carrying with it an unfamiliar scent of dirt and sand and, I assumed, something from the scrubby trees that clumped together as a bulwark against the constant breeze. I loved it, and I had to force myself not to just stop and stare at every little thing. One day, girl, one day. But soon I was distracted again looking for Magnus, because he was nowhere to be found. Not in the greenhouse, for sure. It was sealed, but I could peer inside. And where the hickey hay is Deimos? The other building was sealed as well, but it was dark and silent. It wasn't until I turned around to go back to the main building that I realized the car was missing. He wouldn't. I hate being right sometimes. I'm like, dang it. Now I gotta go beat him up myself. My stomach fluttered anxiously when I realized he wasn't wandering or exploring. He left. Doubts crashed in as all sorts of horrible possibilities began to play out in my mind. He left me? But why? To go where? It wasn't like he had just popped off to a shop for breakfast or something. I doubted there was anything around for kilometers. I stood staring at the empty spot where the car had been until I finally tired of my hair blowing into my face. I eventually returned to the habitat and flopped on the sofa, trying to work out the most likely possibilities. I didn't have much to go on. It didn't make sense that he'd abandon me here. Probably. I didn't think he had anything to gain from it, for one. But more than that, I didn't think he'd do it after... well... after last night, or all the days leading up to it. I believe in you, girl. You got this. Magnus was a decent liar when he wanted to be. I'd witnessed that firsthand, but only when he was hiding behind that wall he kept up with others. And I'd become good at detecting when he was letting his guard down. Perhaps I was putting too much faith in myself, but I felt like I'd know if yesterday was a lie. And I just didn't believe he was that kind of man. Besides, what would be the point of bringing me out here, having a tryst on someone else's sofa, then dumping me? There was no logic in going through everything we'd gone through to get here only to ditch me. If he took the car, then it must mean there was somewhere nearby he wanted to get to. Another habitat, maybe? He could have gone to meet up with this friend of his somewhere else. That seemed the most likely conclusion. Though if that was the case, I'd have appreciated a message. Though it's possible he thought he'd be back before I got up. I'd only slept a few hours. Or it could mean that communicating over the nanosystem wasn't safe. Or he could have just forgotten. That would definitely be in character. Sad but true. So what was I supposed to do now? Message him anyway? Wait for him to come back and hope he did? I could also attempt to locate him. I couldn't say I'd ever used my Psi to look for someone before, but it was obviously something that was possible. But I also didn't know if it came with any risks of its own. My biggest fear was revealing our location by mistake. And it was making me afraid to do much of anything beyond sit here and wait for him to come back. Well, as I keep reiterating, we are not the cautious sort. So, let us confidently stride forth and find this dummy and give him a bop on the head as we rescue him from whatever troubles he's gotten himself into. But I still couldn't help but feel that finding him was the most important thing right now. And I had to admit that it was better than waiting without knowing anything. When I find him, I'm definitely going to tell him off. If I found him, I suppose. Magnus had said before that it could be difficult to locate someone with Psi if you didn't already have a good idea where they were. And that was for someone as experienced as Ari. I, on the other hand, had never done it before. Ever. But even though I wasn't sure how, I had a better idea than just expanding my sphere and hoping for the best. Though I didn't know how useful of an idea it would prove to be. I was going to have to wing it without someone else to help me figure it out. I was thinking about this yesterday, ways that Endgame might be able to track us. In our case, we had used teleportation, and Magnus had kept our destination a secret from me. It annoyed me at the time, but I realized later there might have been a reason for that, beyond him just being secretive. Endgame had entire teams of psychometrists. There we go. Generally, I think we did read this about it being post-cognition. Oh, right. It's like force object? Is that what it's called in Star Wars? Basically, it leaves an echo behind of information on, an object or location. Right. So is Morgan gonna go and do stuff like that and kind of see Ghost Magnus wandering around? And that's where he went. Any bishop with a lot of skill when it came to postcognition might be able to find information about where we were headed if they spent time in the places we'd last been seen. Right. Not actually saying those locations out loud might have helped avoid that. Especially since we had used teleportation to get from location to location. I assumed that would cut off our connection to a given place and diminish the chances they could follow us with psychometry. But today, Magnus had driven the car. If I could get a psychometric lock on him and just follow it, like Ariadne's thread, I see you, girl. It might be more effective than trying to scan the area at random with a large sphere. That was how it was going to work in theory, anyway. It wasn't like I'd ever tried anything like this. I hoped that if I could visualize it, I could make it work. The only way to find out was to try it. So I went to stand about where the car had been earlier. Nice. Ah, this is so cool. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath, letting my sigh expand. This time I wasn't trying to perceive my current surroundings in the present, but rather how they had been a few hours prior. In my mind, it was like picturing a little window that allowed me to peer backwards in time. At first, there was nothing. Then I caught sight of a small swirl of violet sky and honed in on that. A trace left behind by Magnus. Then a stream of images hit me. Magnus letting himself out of the habitat, standing and looking towards the horizon, getting into the car and driving away. But that wasn't enough. I couldn't find him just from knowing the direction he'd started off at. As I watched the image play out, it was as if I could see a sort of trail he left behind, like an echo of his movements. A psychic trace that might lead me to him as I'd hoped. Instead of recklessly expanding my sphere, I let myself follow that trail mentally. His destination wasn't far. There was a structure hidden in those nearby peaks. Old, alien, falling down and obscured by rubble and old rocks. Anyone who didn't know it was there would be hard-pressed to locate it. And that was his destination. Avalon, mayhap? I sort of flashed back to the present, the jolt of it shaking my body. I think I keep saying Avalon, and that's actually an alternate name for King and not the location of King. I keep getting it confused. Actually, I can just check my handy-dandy... Where is it? Glossary. Places? No, it is a place. Hey, I got that right. It is Avalon. Okay. Maybe Avalon. I'm not completely crazy. I sort of flashed back to the present, the jolt of it shaking my body. That actually worked! So now I knew where he went, and based on what I saw, probably still was. Walking would take a while, but I could teleport myself. Whatever he was doing, I didn't want him to isolate himself and do it alone again. He'd been trying to solve things and manage it all from the shadows, and alone, for too long. We'd just had this talk, and yet he was at it again. Yeah, old habits die hard. It was enough already. So now I knew where I was going. I looked towards those peaks in the distance and released my sphere again, aiming just for them instead of expanding it in an even radius. That should make focusing a little easier. When the remnants of that strange structure came into view, I targeted a location slightly inside it. Whoa. Cool. The first thing that hit me was the faint scent of dust, then the hum of machinery. I took a moment to get my bearings. It was disorienting to abruptly change locations like that, even when I knew it was coming. When my eyes adjusted, I recognized the architecture right away. This was Thalossan in origin, wasn't it? I'm pretty sure we read about this during Jack's route, at least. Previous occupants of the planet, yes. Yes. Older Thalossan too, given the Arraean influences in the overall design of the structure. But it lacked Arraean symbols, so it was built after their culture had vanished. Where in the world am I? I wanted to look around, but I was here for a purpose, and so started deeper into the structure. What could Magnus have been seeking here? I was tempted to try to see if I could find that echo of him again, to see what path he'd taken. But as far as I could see, there was only one path to follow anyway. At first I didn't realize it, but I was walking on a slight downward slope. An underground facility. In the wastes. My mind and heart were racing as a few possibilities dawned on me. Magnus might be planning something big, and something very unfortunate. I'm unsure how long I walked before I heard the voices. 5 minutes? Maybe 10? I slowed my steps, pausing to listen to the indistinct murmur of conversation. There's more than one person in here. I did my best to muffle my footsteps as I went further into the facility, until the voices became clear enough for me to recognize one of them. Magnus. It looked like the passage opened into a wider room ahead, and, conscious of the fact I'd stalked him to some secret location, I decided not to just burst in and demand answers. I flattened myself against the wall and crept closer to the entrance. All that was visible to me was a small slice of the room beyond.
I can't deny I've been disappointed with the way things were flowing for some time, though I may fail to grasp the finer details of some of the problems. But the slow draining of compassion, the death grip on a cause over the well-being of people, that I have seen myself. The purpose of Endgame has become warped, and the methods they use to achieve that purpose even more so.
That is just the passage of time in the end. Nothing stays pure forever.
But I never meant to chain anyone down to some greater purpose. That wasn't the reason I began all this.
Began all this? Is he talking to King? My stomach fluttered with anxiety as it seemed like my initial feeling might be correct. Was it possible this was Avalon? If so, that would mean the person Magnus was talking to was... King? That could make sense with our location, but I was sure there was another person in there with him. As in... a physical body. I could sense them even through the walls. That didn't make sense if he was talking with the AI. I mean, we did... I think Morgan briefly mentioned, like, in the Endgame library, the way things are written about King is like it's a person. Maybe there's a physical manifestation of King? Maybe it's a Matrix situation where, you know, a Neo is locked into the AI as one or something? I don't know. The voice also sounded organic, not synthetic.
If you understand the situation, then...
I admit, it has been a struggle to watch you deal with the growing problems. Though I'm sure you also understand why my hands are tied.
I understand why you've chosen to tie them.
Well, isn't that something covered in your history books after all?
There was a brief silence. Then... well, so much for that.
Is your companion going to stay in the hall and listen? I'd enjoy meeting her face to face.
I froze, breath catching in my throat.
Companion? I didn't...
He stopped and there was an audible sigh.
Morgan, you're there, aren't you?
No? Wow. I'm terrible at stealth, apparently. You just rolled a nat 1, that's all. I braced myself for what I assumed would be disapproval from Magnus and stepped around the corner. Although she probably had disadvantage considering the, the environment she's in. Ah! I don't even know what that noise was that came out of my mouth. Deimos was like the... I guess I should have expected it to maybe be Deimos. You're looking well? Nice to meet you, finally. Sorry about the couch. It's interesting. Like, the two kings, and they're like... because chess. I feel dumb. The chess! Of course! Look at them. All in black, all in white. They're like opposites. Ugh. It all makes so much sense. I love the visual look of it. Deimos, why are you talking like an AI? Are you... Maybe that's how King can communicate, is like, whoops, is if you press the right buttons. is if a king rank interacts so that he can actually speak through them. So maybe that's why Deimos is here. He's like, I need Deimos so that I can talk to King properly. Although you think you'd be able to just interact electronically with Psy? I don't know. Maybe I should just keep going and see what happens instead of speculating. I'm just very excited, alright? That's all. That's my excuse.
I suppose I should have expected you to find me. You are exceptionally talented, after all.
Yep, he sounds annoyed. Exceptionally talented, yes. And exceptionally apprehensive when left alone in a strange place with no message or note where you'd gone.
Is that so?
You left her alone without a message. Honestly, Magnus, even I realized that would be disconcerting.
You have a nice house. I thought she'd be fine.
Oh, I was fine. Just annoyed. Wait, what did Magnus just say? Nice house? Then this was... Deimos? That didn't make sense. He's just like so amused watching her like try to suss it out. Wait, okay, so if it's his, he said your house, so that would mean it's Deimos. But it can't be Deimos because I overheard the conversation, so that doesn't make any sense. He's just like, haha. Who is this man? My sudden confusion must have been evident. He gave Magnus a slight smile.
Isn't it customary for there to be introductions at this point?
This is my friend. He goes by Lance these days, though in the past he's used several others.
Right. Hi, Lance. The man came towards me, his smile softening. I hadn't paid much attention to him at first. But now... I noticed the faded hair and eyes, first of all, and when I took his hand, I noted the faint lines around the joints. Cybernetics. Okay.
Morgan Leone. I already know your name. I'm pleased to finally meet you. You look like you have many questions.
I do. So many.
Such as the nature of this place. The nature of... myself.
You definitely. Among other things, yes. Magnus is like, great, now I gotta wait for the explanation. I just wanted to, like, destroy this thing, and now it's a big thing with a conversation. Ah, man. Sorry, Magnus.
This place is a control hub for the planetary AI and the central location for the mainframe the AI controls. Well, it's a bit of a back entrance since the main location was destroyed some time ago. I thought Magnus would come here, so I decided to wait here instead of at my house. Your people dubbed it Avalon when they arrived on this world.
My people? Who are you?
Magnus already told you my current name. In another life, I was called Deimos. And in yet another, King.
Okay. What? What does that mean?
It means what it sounds like it means. If you recall the story I told you about Deimos Fianchetto, an F-class king rank who disappeared and was thought dead, Lance has only fractured memories from that time. What I left out of the story was that someone attempted to use him to find the location of Avalon, but lost track of him at some point as he wandered the wastes. He doesn't know how long he wandered, but he did find this place eventually, or one of the entrances to it. And he somehow fused himself with the AI when trying to take it over.
Interesting. Okay. So they covered up the fact that you, like, fused with the AI by saying, he died! Haha. So now you're a fusion of King and Deimos, which is why you go by Lance, I'm assuming? Because now you're neither, but something new? Oh boy. Okay. Why do kings gotta be so complicated? Fused with the AI? Is that even possible?
Well, here I am. I suppose that's answer enough.
The best I can hypothesize is that when trying to take over and gain control of the AI, somehow Deimos lost himself to the process. His personality merged with the AI's programming, and a new identity was created. That identity resides almost entirely in Lance's body, but retains a full connection to the mainframe as King did. Either way, this man is, for all intents and purposes, the remnant of the planetary AI and the person that was Deimos Fianchetto.
That's an old story, though. I'd love to give you the details of it, but we're a bit pressed for time, are we not?
That's a polite way of saying, wait for my route and I shall reveal all at some point. Pressed for time? Why?
Endgame has figured out our location, not down to the exact coordinates. Yet. But they've at least worked out that we are in the vicinity of Avalon and are working to get a lock on our exact whereabouts.
So that's why you left this morning.
Correct.
To what purpose, though?
Ah, that. I believe Magnus came to do something he might regret later on. Isn't that right, Magnus?
Regrets are normal. Anyone who says they have no regrets is either lying or a psychopath.
I suppose that's probably true.
What are you planning to do?
There is only one thing a king-ranked Esper would want to do in this location.
You intend to take control of the AI?
You're close, but not quite there yet. My goal isn't to take over the AI, or take over the mainframe itself. I intend to dismantle it and give individual domes complete control of their systems, while ensuring planet-wide control is no longer possible from any single location.
What could possibly be the rationale behind that?
Because without a mainframe, there will be no need for a planetary AI. And without the AI, there is no need for Endgame's Espers.
Yep, I knew this is where your thought process was gonna go.
You must understand that there are only a few reasons people seek to control the AI, Morgan. The first is the ease by which you can control the mainframe. Without the AI, you need a massive team of people to manage it. The second, more nefarious reason, is that the AI can access and control the nanosystem down to an individual level. And the third is that the AI acts as a security measure for the mainframe. It's pointless to try to take over the mainframe when the AI can keep you out with ease. The mainframe and the AI go hand in hand. That is why my goal is to destroy one and dismantle the other. Only when I remove Endgame's core purpose can I rebuild the organization with a better purpose. Because as long as the AI exists, Endgame will be ruthless in their adherence to their ideal and trample anyone who gets in the way. All in the name of global peace. I thought maybe, for a while, I thought there might be another option. I wanted there to be another option. One where we could walk away. To be able to go somewhere with you where no one knew us and we could just live. That's what I wanted. But no, they couldn't let it go. Of course they couldn't. We're too dangerous, you and I.
I see. So you were hoping, like, against your better judgment and against all logic, you were like, maybe they'll just let us go and we can, like, go and live a normal life somewhere and they'll just forget about it and trust that we're not gonna mess things up, but of course they wouldn't. Okay.
In their mind, there would always be a threat of us coming to this place. It is a loose end they could not simply leave alone.
But isn't the flaw of this plan that you have to destroy the AI? I mean, you're talking about killing someone, and then you have to try to maintain the mainframe alone. The switch over to a system where individual domes have control isn't going to be easy, and it'll alert the entire planet to the fact something is going on here. There will be protests and...
I'm aware of all the intricacies. This isn't a plan I came up with overnight. I thought of this for many, many years. The fact that Deimos and King merged in the first place opens the possibilities.
Are you intending to merge with... Lance?
Not quite.
I still don't think you have what it takes to be a tyrant.
Humans are capable of a great deal when their hand is forced.
I don't think you're capable of murdering your friend.
I don't intend to murder him. Deimos merged with King. I intend to absorb him completely and gain full control of the mainframe long enough to dismantle it.
Isn't that the same as death?
I don't know. But we can no longer afford to indulge the reticent god of this world while everyone fights to control him.
I've lived a long time, but it's still a little scary to hear you say something like that.
How can you talk about it so casually?
I don't mean to be casual about it.
You were casually discussing it when I arrived. Look, there has to be a less drastic solution here. I'd rather turn myself in before...
No! No. That is not an option.
What you're discussing shouldn't be an option either.
Why not? Turning yourself in won't do a shred of good. Look at what they do. Use people, create people, make grandiose judgment calls of right or wrong. They peel back the future and decide for everyone what the right path is. Who gave them, or anyone else, the right to play God?
I was just gonna say, so what gives you the right? You're becoming what you hate in an attempt to get rid of it, Magnus. That's not the way either. Ah, you dummy. Isn't that what you're trying to do?
Because Endgame uses this shield of protecting the AI. The idea of this peacekeeping is meant to keep people from turning their eyes back to this place. This place that everyone wants. This place that people are willing to go to war for. And they call it a greater good. The moment you are willing to sacrifice someone, it can no longer be called good.
That's what you're doing too.
Yes, that's right. Unlike King, I'm not a pacifist. There's no other way to break Endgame apart. No other way to stand up to them. With this, they'll have no choice but to listen. And if I have to, I'll destroy that place until there's nothing left.
I assume the guard has arrived?
We can't let you do that.
Knew it. Caleb? Not just Caleb. The rest of the guard was with him too.
I see. It seems you found our exact location. Do we have Ari to thank for this?
Yes, but I only searched for you after the council announced internally that you'd been found.
Oh?
We came on our own, you shitty excuse for a leader.
Goodness! You're already starting in, Mara. You just got here. We haven't even had a proper round of introductions yet.
What the actual fuck do you think you're doing, Magnus?
Language, Mara.
Hell's about 2 steps behind us, Magnus, so you better explain yourself fast.
Okay, so the guard came here to be like, look, now's the time, explain yourself so we can help you.
If you've come this far, you probably already know what I'm planning to do. Do I need to explain it?
Damn it, Magnus! And why did you have to drag Morgan into this too?
To be correct, the council dragged her into it. After they decided to incarcerate her, I merely suggested it was time for us to leave.
Why didn't you come to us? Either of you!
Magnus said,
You're capable of making your own decisions, Morgan.
I didn't know what to do! Ever since you grabbed me off the street, I've just been trying to make it moment to moment. I know this is old hat for all of you, but I haven't spent years training to deal with unexpected and dangerous situations. What was I supposed to do when the ruling body of the most powerful organization on this planet decided I'm an enemy? An organization all of you are a part of. Should I have expected you to go into full rebellion for my sake?
Why the hell do you think we're here right now, knowing full well the Furies will be here any minute? Morgan, sweetie, trust us a little. And don't develop this guy's nasty habit of doing things alone. I mean, I think a little insurrection will be good for the council, right, Mara? Well, I can't say I don't agree. As touching as this is, I do believe we should prepare to defend Magnus and Morgan from the Furies. They will arrive soon. And protect the mainframe from this dumbass until we can sit him down and talk him off the ledge.
Lance gave an amused little wave when Caleb gestured to him.
Also, who the hell is this guy?
And Lance is like, hello!
You know him as king, and I'm afraid I don't intend to be dissuaded as easily as all that.
This guy is the planetary AI. I'm sure there will be time for explanations later. They're here.
Get outside and keep them from this place. They can't find out about Lance and... I glanced at Magnus. If we weren't careful, he'd do something drastic before anyone could talk him out of it.
Understood. I'll stay here and shield this place for now. The rest of you try to get them to retreat long enough we can come up with a plan of action.
Ari, Caleb, and the others were gone in a flash. Vaughn stood by the door, a bright shield crackling to life around the room.
It should keep them out for a while, even their nights. Perhaps this would be easier if we move forward with Magnus's plan. I do not want any of you to fight with one another. No way. I have no idea what the hell you three were talking about before we got here, but if you're who you say you are, I can only imagine what Magnus's plan entailed for you.
Vaughn is right. I don't think... Oh, and he's on the move. Magnus moved before I could finish. At the same time, there was an explosion in the hall that rocked the floor and almost sent me to the ground. No! I staggered to my feet, lurching towards Magnus and Lance, grabbing Magnus's arm and trying to pull him away. Man, King is such a pacifist, he's just like, well, if you want to do it, I'm not gonna, even try to escape this. They're connected already. Magnus's deep violet was swirling and intertwining with the silvery violet of Lance's Psi. I let out an anguished cry, unsure what to do. Magnus's hands were clamped on Lance's shoulders, and neither of them was responding. In a final desperate attempt to stop him, I threaded my Psi into both of theirs. Triple purple power! Oh boy. Instantly, the mental presence of both Magnus and Lance filled my mind. I mean, that's beautiful. Magnus's Psi was winding itself around Lance, trying to absorb him, just as he said. I didn't want to hurt him, but I couldn't allow this to continue. I had to somehow force my way between them. Damn it, Magnus! Let go! I tore Magnus away from him in the physical world while using my Psi to sever the growing link between theirs. Right, she's got the severing ability. That might not have been wise. It felt like it wasn't a clean rip. Like a part of Lance's Psi stayed with Magnus, and part of Magnus's Psi stayed with Lance. Only a small part, but at least they were apart again. Why are we gonna get, like, another, like, 2 more new identities after this? Full awareness of my physical surroundings faded back in, and I was on the ground with Magnus. I was so furious at him, so hurt by his willingness to destroy his own life for this, to sacrifice Lance and even himself. But not me. Never me. Every pent-up emotion released at once, and I let out a sob, burying my face in his chest.
Morgan?
You idiot! I meant it to sound angry, but instead it came out as a soft moan. What are you trying to do? Don't you have enough regrets? You're going to hurt the person that helped you through what they did to you? You're going to sacrifice someone the same way they did and claim it's for a higher purpose? You're going to make it so you hate yourself even more? For the rest of your life, so you can hope the future for everyone else is better. I lifted my face to him, ignoring that tears were already flowing. Just stop it. Stop acting like you're the only one who can fix this. Stop deciding everything for yourself. There was something like panic on Magnus's face as I looked at him.
You're crying. I never wanted you to cry.
He pulled me close for a tight hug.
I don't know what else to do, Morgan. I don't know how to fix this. I provoked them, and then things didn't go as planned. I don't want you to be in danger anymore.
I pulled away and smacked his chest with my fist. See, you gotta beat some sense into him. I don't want you in danger either! I know you're desperate for a solution, but you don't have to do something so stupid. Ugh! I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's sort of a bishop outside flanking Cyburst at my shield, and it's not going to hold much longer.
Morgan, while
You! I got to my feet, whirling around to pin him in place with the glare. All I can say is that someone as old as you should know better.
Oh. When you say it that way, it makes me sound like an old man.
Don't you have the memories of a several thousand-year-old being?
I suppose that's true.
Vaughn, try to hold out just a little longer. Too late! I flung a wall of Psi over the door right as Vaughn's shield gave out. She staggered backwards, catching herself against the wall. When the first Psi burst hit, I flinched under the force of it.
Thanks. You saved my tail.
That's my job. She gave me a crooked grin as she tried to regain her composure. Lance, you have to come back to the tower with us. I spoke with gritted teeth, trying to keep my focus on holding that shield in place as it came under a barrage of attacks from outside.
Absolutely not.
Enough! Stop rejecting my idea before you even hear it! You can hear the fighting going on out there. Endgame is destroying itself from the inside out.
This was inevitable.
I am about 2 seconds from handing you over to Mara and letting her do whatever she does when she's annoyed at you.
That's a bit harsh, isn't it?
No! No, it's not.
I really don't think helping Vaughn out did much to improve your mood.
I was starting to realize why you always threatened to drag him around by that stupid braid. Magnus, you've turned the Council into a monster you think can't be dealt with in a reasonable way. I don't know if it's because you've been pushing back against them so long or watching them get their way so long while feeling helpless to stop them. All with the burden of Endgame and global peace bearing down on you. I've also experienced that hopelessness of thinking they're too strong to deal with. But it's just an organization. They're just people with a few annoying Espers at their disposal. But we also have people willing to help us too. Some pretty damn good ones. Lance. King. You have a responsibility here. You created Endgame, and now it's struggling. You have to get involved again.
The last time I got involved in the affairs of your people, it began a war.
There's going to be a war if you don't get involved. And no one outside the council has to know who you are. You think any of us are going to share that information? Or that they will? We're not stupid. Allowing others to fight it out when you have the power to intervene isn't justice. And it isn't peace. Neither is sacrificing yourself. Come back with us. Talk to them. And dismantle the mainframe with Magnus. Without the mainframe, you're not the planetary AI, just a normal person. Even if you can still control the nanosystem, all king ranks can do that to some degree. No one has to know anything more than that you're a king rank, right?
Morgan,
Then I'll go back and deal with the council myself. Right now. I turned away, fully intending to do just that. I will go and blow up some things if you don't listen to me.
No!
Did you forget who you're dealing with? You can't stop me. I'm tired of the situation and how I'm not doing anything while others try to destroy themselves and everything else. I might as well join in.
You can't do something like that.
If you hate it, then you should agree to my idea.
Lance will never agree to...
I'll do it.
See, our girl's persuasive.
What?
I'll try this plan of Morgan's. The council might be more willing to listen to me, and if not, we'll blackmail them.
Nice.
If they were so easily blackmailed...
You don't know everything about Endgame, Magnus. But I do. I'm certain I can get them to talk.
That's all good and well, but I hope you haven't forgotten about those guys. By the way, Morgan, how are you holding up? Oh! I forgot about the shield. Man, that must be nice. Shields aren't my forte. I was barely holding up, and here you are half a minute in and already a pro. Hello. Lance tipped his head to the side, peering out into the hall. There was a loud boom outside, then everything went eerily quiet. In the hall, there was quiet scuffling, the confused sound of voices, and retreat. What just happened?
I suppressed the psi of the nano-espers in the vicinity by cancelling out the nano-resonance that allows them full use of their abilities.
Ah.
It isn't quite the same effect as your psi inhibitors, but it greatly disrupts a person's ability to manipulate their psi energy. But it's only temporary. The nanites can adapt and re-establish resonance. Consider this as my choosing a side.
He stopped the fighting, just like that. With such an overpowered method. No wonder people were always after him. Wasn't that Deimos' ability, though? Maybe enhanced by King, but I feel like that was Deimos' ability.
I bet the rooks are still at it outside.
Of course, this only works on nano-espers. But it should give your team an edge when peacefully solving the current crisis, yes?
Are you telling me to go out there and threaten to beat up everyone if they don't behave?
I think it would be a compelling argument against further fighting.
Let's go before we find out just how temporary this effect is.
I still don't know that your plan will work. It only does half of what I intended to do.
I paused next to him, reaching to touch his cheek. It will work. We'll make it work. Trust the others this time. Trust me. You don't have to fight this battle alone. And even if regrets are normal, this doesn't have to turn into one for you. He covered my hand with his own and let out a shaky breath.
I want you to be right about this. I really want that. They could try to take Lance into custody.
I'm not afraid to fight back anymore either. Really fight back, not just run away. Now come on. I have a lot of people outside to go threaten.
Hey, if that guy that stabbed you is out there, want me to hold him down while you punch him?
That's actually tempting.
This is supposed to be a peaceful solution. She can punch him peacefully! Like, in the gut instead of in the face. Magnus, has the definition of peaceful changed in the last few years?
Well, our little Vanessa never did make the best of grades, and oof!
I let out a quiet breath. It wasn't over yet, but maybe there was hope for a better solution to all this than what Magnus planned. I hoped.